Becky Clayton, Concepting and Composition of the Shot, ScreenCast. My original design concept was a hybrid creature mixed between a mouse, a deer and a lemur. My main inspiration came from dark fantasy movies such as Pan's Labyrinth and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. After speaking to the tutor, he encouraged me to develop my concept more based on my movie inspiration, so I changed the overall presence of the creature. I also changed the composition of the image, moving the creature higher up to give it a more menacing appearance. I then drew out some orthographics using reference images of tarsier skulls and deer antlers because this was the closest to what I wanted to create. I wasn't completely happy with the height of the antlers or the shape of the skull, so I then moved it into Photoshop and edited it, and this is the edit. I used the lasso and feather and then warped to pull out the antlers and sketched on top to fill any gaps. I also used filter and liquify to push any parts forward that I wanted to stretch, and added an alpha and a black brush to remove any of the smudgy areas. Saved these two images separately and then moved them into ZBrush. I formed the basic shape of the skull on ZBrush using the Move tool, the Smooth tool and the Clay Buildup tool, and basing it off the orthographics. I then built up muscle layers using reference images of tarsiers and cats, which was the most similar body shape to what I desired. At this stage I then inserted the eyes and a tree branch. I then added ears and other appendages and antlers. I recalculated the pixels to prevent any holes in thin areas such as the ears and any distortion. I also used inflate when the areas were getting riskily thin, particularly around the ears and the fingers. Once I had got to this stage, I was ready to remesh, and as you can see there was an issue with the toe connecting to the body. To fix this issue I transferred it into Maya, deleted the faces that were connected and used the bridge tool and the append polygon to create a new toe. Once the toe was created, I then moved up the subdivision levels, adding fat folds, detail, and getting more and more detailed each level. I'm happy with the completed design. I feel it gives the menacing appearance that I desired from my concept designs. So this was as soon as the creature was transported into Photoshop. The first thing I did was added a background. I blurred the background and brought the saturation down to create a more menacing feel. Also did this to add a depth of field, simplify the image, limit the focus to purely my creature, and diminish any detail in the background that might have been a distraction. To prevent destructive editing, I used a lot of layers so that I could then remove a layer if I didn't like the effect that I'd created. The first thing I did was mask off the body of the creature so that I could then use a skin tone. This made it a lot easier to colour the creature and also prevented me from going onto the background. I then added some shadows over the top of this, added a few layers of texture to the branch. I didn't feel much more than this was necessary because it matched the background in colour scheme. I then built up 10 layers of colour and detail in the eyes to create a 3D effect. Finally, I made a few adjustments to the mouth as I thought it was a bit too extreme and I wanted a more mouse-like appearance. I also added highlights, hair, which you can see when I'm closer up. To create this natural looking effect on the skin, I imported an image of a rusty piece of metal. I then masked off the area I wanted it to be applied to, used a smart filter to bring down the hue and the saturation. On the majority of my edits I'd used a normal blend mode, however on ones such as these I changed it to overlay to get the desired effect. I also used other blend modes in areas such as the eyes. For instance, in the iris I used soft light. I'm happy with the composition of the shot because I feel it draws the eye using the rule of thirds to my creature, and also the angle of the branch uses the rule of triangles to draw the eye up towards the creature also. And I'm happy with the colour scheme and the overall appearance. If I was to do this again, I would change any alterations to the face and the body before importing it into Photoshop. I would also improve the original topology, especially around circular areas such as the eyes, so that it would be able to animate it easier. Thank you. The two images used during my project were sourced from the internet, the background and the metal texture.